I'm just one volunteer amongst over 1,000 that have been helping out to make this convention happen, a successful reality. And in fact, when you add up all the number of hours that have been put into this event by everyone involved, over 1 million man-hours have gone into this event, which is what has helped ensure the success and viability of this convention. The reason why we do this, I think I speak not just for myself, but for probably most of the volunteers, is that we grew up with events like this, and distinctly, fondly remember going back to those events, how they developed me, how they changed me. I made so many friends that to this day I still have, and they really turned me into who I am today. And I feel a deep sense of not only gratitude, but also responsibility to give that to the future generation as well.
So the last convention that we held was in 2013 here in Atlanta, and then about a year after that we started thinking about the next convention and starting to find sites, possible venues to hold that convention, projecting the numbers and the facilities that we required to hold such a convention. So in 2014, in the summer of 2014, we started making a short list of different sites, and we shortened it down to a few possibilities where they were willing to host us, and they were within our requirements and our budget range and all of those things. And so we prepared different options.
We did several site visits with the planning team and with the different swamis that were local here, some swamis that were out of town but had significant roles during this conference. And working through those details and logistics. As you can imagine, 3,000 people or 3,000 delegates per wave roughly is a lot of different transition going on in the hotel. And then obviously all the volunteers having to work with Marriott and Hilton for overflow rooms, having the kids have to come over and come back. Those logistics on just that level was immense.
Things really solidified within the past 3 years or so in terms of selecting the location, the venue, the actual hotel convention site that we're at currently, and then deciding to actually figure out how we're going to be working the Shibuya in terms of the dates and then the more minutiae, the logistical details. In the past 2 years, we've made over 10 site visits. Over 30 days of actual physical time has been spent at this site prior to even the convention starting, in addition to numerous meetings that have been held off-site.
So in 2016, we took whatever we had as far as these budgets and as far as the plot goes, because we were developing content alongside the logistics of the event. We took all of that to Pramukh Swami Maharaj and Saranpur, and so he had a chance to bless the script, whatever was ready at that time, the script, the group leads packets, the goshtis, whatever topics were ready at that time. He looked over all those, he blessed them, he gave his guidance, and he looked over the budget and basically the different choices for the sites as well for at that time in 2016.
So the Pujya Sadguru Santos as well as Mahant Swami Maharaj, they both have played a very important role in the making of this event. Their blessings, their guidance have helped to bring this event to where it is. We have, throughout various courses of the planning stages, we've involved them in the different aspects of what we're doing.
Mahant Swami Maharaj was the one that actually was involved from 2016 in picking this venue and suggesting where we should hold it. When we presented all of the options to him and all of the senior swamis, he suggested to all of them, let's do it in Atlanta. Because of his previous experience and involvement in NC-13 when it was held here in Atlanta, he saw how the volunteer team worked with SUMP or Unity, and he was very impressed with that, and he's been on this whole message of SUMP since he became guru. He's been spreading this message of SUMP and unity everywhere, and so he said that let's do it in Atlanta, and that's where it'll be done with SUMP.
I can tell you this has been one of the most well-organized events that I've had the pleasure of overseeing. And what's been so remarkable is that it's all volunteers. You know, typically when you host conventions, you'll have professional meeting planners and such that, really do that for a living. And I've been so impressed with the group and all the volunteers and on so many levels.
We're expecting about 9,000 bags to go through this center today, and it's going through 3 different hotels. We're collecting, tagging 9,000 bags.
I think the one thing that kind of motivated me and helped put things into perspective is the sacrifice that we make as individuals in all of the planning that goes into this has such a long-term effect, right, in like an individual's life. And all of the delegates that are attending here, each and every single one of them is going to be able to take something away.
I mean, there are over 30 operational departments, but and all of them put in enormous amount of man hours and dedication to it. But there are a couple that really stand out. For example, the kitchen department, they're really working 24/7 and shifts. There is a certain shift that will come in at 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning and start cooking so that breakfast is ready on time for the delegates when they wake up, so that lunch is ready to go. And then they'll have to rest in the afternoon and evening while another shift takes on the responsibility of dinner and dessert. And so it's really a continuous operation that really never ends.
The menu is all created over 2 years ago. There's been 2 years of planning into this menu. There's been many factors in creating this menu. One of the main things was we wanted things to be portion controlled. We also have a menu that is healthy for kids, but they can still enjoy it. So we put those two things together and we created this menu.
Not only did we just plan, we actually did test runs, meaning so we had meetings throughout the 2 years, and every time we had a meeting, we took a menu and we actually, for that specific meeting, we would run through the entire menu, and that's what we would make. You know, because we're cooking for 3,000, 4,000, delegates coming to the convention, we wanted to make sure it's going to take us hours to make this food, but we wanted to make sure when we are serving the food, the quality was there, the taste was there, and the kids would enjoy it, and we wanted to serve it warm.
There's a feeling of volunteering with BAPS. When you volunteer with BAPS, the internal feeling is great, and especially when it comes to kids. Feeding these kids, seeing the smiles on their faces, you just can't beat it.
So we started off maybe about a year ago, just over a year ago, with 10 individuals on our core team, and they vary from experienced graphic designers professionally to ninth graders who are just exploring their options with Photoshop and other graphic design tools. And we came across the idea of rolling boards, and we decided to use 24 rolling boards to create these movable walls almost, and that would be the majority of our environment. But we also worked backwards in a way that we identified some cool ways to create messaging, but also tie that right back into the main program content. So our goal in the end was to take everything that had to do with the environment and relate it back to those main messages that were being emphasized in the program.
So the props and the decoration and the whole environment production really started sometimes about 4 or 5 months ago. We had a rough idea of what we wanted to do, but in terms of the signage and the layout of the location and so on, the screens that you guys see and the elephant that you see behind me, but in terms of the props, that really didn't start until about 4 months ago when we really met with the production team and looked at what they were creating, what their vision was. And once they had a sketch or a vision and gave us an outline of saying, like, for example, Bamando, the Candyland theme, right? They had a concept, but they needed someone to kind of bring that concept to life. And that's where a couple of guys kind of met here in Atlanta and kind of looked at what the production team was really looking for. We went away home, came up with a bunch of ideas, met several times over conference calls, Zoom calls, to kind of share ideas, shared computer screens, looked at different concepts they were looking at and so on. And then that really brought a final version to what we see today, or what we've been seeing in the past couple of days.
But I'm not gonna see it. I'm gonna see whatever's on the real card. I'm like, all right, here's a house. No, it's fine. It's not that big a deal.
Fine, don't worry about it.
Your thing is
This team is all high schoolers, all college students. We understand that, like, I think I pulled most of my inspiration from my team, seeing that they all are straight A students, seeing that they all have responsibilities at school, tests, all these things. To take out time to do this, it's just incredible.
So the script was actually written by the volunteer production leads, and they've worked tirelessly probably for about the past 4 years to get the script to where it is today. And the last version of the script wasn't finished until May. So it's been a tireless process of revising and editing.
So every night we would have practices from 9 to 10 p.m. and then 10 to 11 p.m. 9 to 10 p.m. would be with the main character Manan, and he would be practicing with us. There would be a specific practice schedule, and we would be adhering to that time, 9 to 10 p.m. Then 10 to 11 p.m. it would just be us 4 Purusharts that would practice on the daily, our fantasy world scenes, so to speak, of Manlok. That would be the idea of the world in his mind. And so 9 to 10 would be with Mana, 10 to 11 would be with the 4 Purusharts.
It definitely took a lot of practices. After finishing my studying, probably about 2 hours per night, 1 to 2 hours per night, of just going through the script, reading through it, working with the other actors to make sure that our lines are being delivered properly. It took a lot of just locking myself up in a room and just staring at those words until I understood what they meant and I understood what they meant for my character.
Some ways that we practice is that we do video calls, Zoom calls. Another way is we'd get together at Atlanta Mandir and we'd have organized practices over there for about a week or the weekends during school weeks. And then we just do it by ourselves. Or we just do like one-on-one practices with others.
Some practices that we held were overnight. All night we would stay there, practice, get to know our characters better, get to know the story better, learn the chemistry with one another, and with maybe around 3 to 4, I think we had around 3 to 4 in-person practices, and because of that we were really able to kind of bring this whole program together.
My first practice, it was 6 months ago. We started 6 months ago, and then we just started, and June 9th is when we started our summer camp, which was when it was a 30-day day. It was a 30-day stay over at Atlanta Mandir, and over there we basically practice.
So this experience has been it's been amazing because every component, whether it was recorded, it was produced, it was written from scratch, it's all been in-house. And to be a part of this experience from the start, and now here at the event, it's truly been amazing to really see it come to life.
Gajendra, Gajendra, the elephant king was he. Gajendra, Gajendra, powerful as can be. Stomping and stamping with his...
I got the specific seva to write the theme song for this Shibir, the Moksha Now track that everyone's heard at the end. So we were like getting towards the end of wrapping things up, and they were like, we need a theme. And so Anikve wrote like a paragraph of like, all right, this is it. This encompasses the Shibir. And I was like, well, that's too much. There's just so many words. So I was like, let's keep it simple. If the Shibir is about feeling Moksha Now while we're here, we should write a song that just says that. So the lyrics are, I'm not waiting for tomorrow, I can feel Moksha Now. So then I pitched it, wrote it, everyone liked it, and then kind of edited a few things, and then, yeah, here we are.
I'm not waiting for tomorrow, I can feel Moksha Now. I'm not waiting for tomorrow, I can feel Moksha Now.
Everything that the delegates will see during the program is very tech heavy. There were a lot of 3D models, audio itself, even the graphics and the animations that are in the program were all developed in-house by volunteering teams. And this has been going on, the effort itself started 1 year back, and since then a lot of youths, a lot of teams have come together to create this amazing animation that delegates have been amazed by. I mean, it's even for us, it's like the amount of effort that we put in, the output is just amazing.
Overall, the team must have produced about 1,000 pieces of content for the 3 conventions. Everything from motion graphics to audio pieces, sound effects, instrumentals, still illustrations. All these things contribute to the experience that the delegate has when they sit through a program.
The planning began about 2 years ago when we were first introduced to the production teams for Bal and Kishore Mandal, and they told us the concept and they asked us how we can really bring this production to life. And from audio, we had worked on system designs to really bring this show to life in the sense of whether you were in the first seat or the last, everybody, every youth, every attendee got an equal opportunity, equal experience.
So we've been involved on this particular event from beginning, from when they were actually writing the script to now, to help design the whole experience that the end users will get at the end of the day. We've all brought in our experiences from the shows that we've done before to give them an idea of what designs to come up with to engage all the kids into the program.
So when he's actually on the NC-18 team, so when they got together the list of all the things that were required, we actually started pulling all the equipment a month or two beforehand, right? And we had other opportunities to rent out, but we kept this just for NC-18. The whole 4.8 screen was made for NC-18, so we decided not to rent it out. And we actually had people from Mandir come in, Sevaks, right, volunteers, who came in and calibrated all the hanger bars so that the LED screens would be built efficiently. Because as you can see, we have over 150 square meters here, which was put up in 8 hours by just volunteers, not professionals. So it's a big feat. It's a huge feat.
With the venue that we have, we originally only had about a half a day to set up. And as you can see, there's 11 different screens, about 7 different cameras, and just multiple locations that we had to, I guess you could say, deploy AV over. We were given a little bit extra time, so in about 48 hours, we did what should have taken about 72 hours, and that's pure setup. And after that, an additional 48 hours for what we call teching, or to actually install and to test the equipment. And that was all done in about an 8-hour time frame. So everything was, again, expedited in a very short format.
So for the planning of this event, the Swamis, they played a very integral role. These Swamis were both born and brought up here or in the UK, and they're accustomed to how the youth here have grown up and how we work and the style that we work in. And so from the get-go, planning the event, they helped with the whole conceptual idea of how to structure the theme. On the logistics side, they were involved in each and every single department and helping guide the department into the different milestones they have to reach in order to make this event successful.
Ishwarcharan Swami gave a lot of guidance from Yogiji Maharaj as far as how Yogiji Maharaj would give kathas. Ishwarcharan Swami has, I still remember a few meetings with him in Ahmedabad in his room there, and he would have a small notebook he keeps, and he would just jot down a few references, and the whole page would be filled. Every time I would go meet him, I would say that, Swami, these are the things that we're going to be discussing in the group discussions or in the speeches. And he would just open up his personal journal of Yogiji Maharaj and his memories and his notes. And he would just say, oh yeah, on this occasion, Yogiji Maharaj spoke about this as far as it relates to the 4 Purushars, Dharma, Arth, Kam, Moksha. And so him and Anand Swami both helped us very clearly define the difference between Dharma, Arth, Kam, and Moksha, especially Arth and Kam, because we aren't used to separating the two. They're so closely linked for us, and we had, I think, about 3 meetings with them and then 2 conference calls with them even afterwards to redefine and help us understand what the difference is between the two as far as scriptural context and what Shriji Maharaj has said and as what the scriptures have said. And then as far as other guidance from him, he's actually the one who designed this logo here. As far as the elephant detailing, when we showed him the elephant and the logo in the pre-stages of it being finalized, we showed it to him, and he said that an Indian elephant has smaller ears and shorter tusks, and so if you could change the elephant, he actually looked at all the revisions of the logo and he chose the one that looked the one that looked best and looked most closely to an Indian elephant.
I think it's absolutely true that the group leads really are the unsung heroes. There were over 300 per convention, total of almost 900 in total, and they really take the Shibir experience to a microcosmic level in terms of taking the bigger pictures, the big content, the big programming, and bringing it down to a practical level for each individual delegate. In the main hall, when there's 3,000 kids, there's 3,000 kids. Each kid doesn't necessarily may not feel that the program is personally tailored for them, but the group lead does that for them. At the end of each program, the group lead takes the groups into discussion format workshops where they go ahead and discuss what has happened in the program and tailor it to the group.
So a typical day here
for a volunteer, a transportation volunteer, could begin as early as 3:30 in the morning because we had people departing, their departing flights starting 5:30 a.m. As a result, there are many volunteers during these 10 days who were pretty much around the clock, and they had to sacrifice their sleep just to make sure that the delegates' experience was the best possible.
We have everyone coming from North America to come and volunteer here, and for them to take time out of their busy schedules and put in that time even though they have young children. So that is why we wanted to make this experience just as amazing for them and for their children. So that is why we created this daycare for them, so they don't need to worry about their children as they are doing their seva.
So Gajendra really came about from going from a simple model from a 2D model to basically when we started working in Atlanta is, okay, can we make it move? Can we make the Gajendra move? So we worked on the mechanicals of the legs instead of just swinging, making them move simultaneously with each other. Then we went into the process of, well, can we make the head move? So we figured out how we could make the head and the trunk move up and down. And that was basically working over several months, taking Santo's inputs on how the elephant should move and what they wanted the elephant actually to do in the musical.
The photo editors literally are staying up till 3, 4 a.m. to ensure that everyone can see the photos in the morning. And that just takes a tremendous amount of dedication and commitment, especially in a volunteer organization.
When I see them do their seva and what they have put together, it tells me that I need to step it up to their plate. It tells me that what I'm doing the next time next time around, I better come with something, new vision, a new way of looking at and how to capture it differently.
The fact is that we spend a lot of time doing this because BAPS has been producing these types of events for decades. And people who have been good at it teach others, they mentor younger volunteers. And all of these people, they spend their free time learning how to do these skills or get better at these things because they're passionate. They're passionate not just about the things that they're learning, but also about the cause, the values that we're imparting to the delegates here. It matters a lot to people because it matters a lot to their own lives.
I've been quite impressed. We'll handle a lot of groups that have volunteers. One thing I've been particularly impressed with is there's not been a lot of egos with BAPS, and sometimes you'll have youth groups or other groups and you have a lot of volunteers and everybody's kind of, I'm in charge, they're in charge, and I've seen so much more cohesiveness amongst the leadership.
The main gift that we're giving, the Smriti bit that we're giving for this event is the shape of a peepal leaf. And so for that alone, he's taken 7 different occasions, he's taken time out for just that. He's written the guidance, he wrote it 4 times actually, the guidance that is on the back of that peepal leaf. He wrote it once and he just had so much to say that it was 4 pages long because he wanted to give the youth so much guidance and advice. It ended up being 4 pages long, and so we asked him on multiple occasions that we can't fit all that on the back of a gift item. It would be far too large to give everybody, so could you make it shorter? So he wrote it first, then he recorded it, then he wrote it again, then he wrote it yet again, because we had to get some date issues. He wrote it multiple times. So on 7 different occasions, he's taking time now just for that.
That ending to write it was probably the hardest grind that we kind of had to do. So it was a few months out from NC-18 and we didn't have an ending. We had a story fleshed out. We had an idea of an ending, but we didn't have an ending. And so the team got together and we made a decision. We're like, in the next 72 hours, we're gonna write this ending. Basically this last evening program. And so 4 or 5 of us got on a call, for 72 hours straight, we're on that call.
In the Kishore Shibir program, the actor, he's actually the ending of his storyline or the climax of his story is actually in Sydney, where he goes to see his guru for Fuldol. And so this time around in March, we went to Sydney and we went there to do that filming. And Manswami Maharaj was so happy to see us, and he said, NC-18, you guys are all here. We showed him pictures of all the practices that were going on at the time, all the group leads trainings that were going on at the time, and he actually sprayed. It was Fuldol, so there's like a small it's called a pichkari, where you spray colored water out of. And so he sprayed a collage that we had made of all of the volunteer efforts, the Swami's efforts, all of the group leads practices, actors practices, group leads trainings, all of the things that were going on. He sprayed colored water on them, and he gave everyone good guidance, and a lot of he showed his happiness towards this event.
आज સેવામાં આવ્યા છે એ અમને ધન્ય છે. તમને લાગે કે અમે ઘસાઈએ છીએ પણ સેવાનું વળતર ખૂબ છે. શ્રીજી મહારાજ અને સંતો બધા ખૂબ રાજી છે.
He was very thankful to all the volunteers and all their efforts that had taken place, and he said that he's very happy upon everyone's efforts, and he gave blessings for the convention, and he said to respect all of the delegates that we were going to be serving and regard them in the highest regard, as if they had already attained moksha. He said that you may not appear that way to you in the moment, but they already have moksha.